to navigate us through the mind.
Here we go!
He's killing it.
Watch out.
He's showing love and he's mad about it. Mad love. That's why we say,
Come on, man, you already know.
mad love.
Big shout out to everybody listening in, tuned in to QSJRadio.com. Today I have a special guest. His name is Ruben Martinez, CEO of Nenemuisk. It's an artist management company, and it does a lot more than that. I am your host, Traffic, a.k.a. Dave Hernandez, whatever you guys want to call me. Today's guest is super special, especially because of you guys. You unsigned artists need to hear what really goes on in the business. Now, let me tell you, he's not here to tell you everything. He's here to tell you about what's going on with him, his team, and it's definitely his new his radio network that he got going on. But we do and we will have some information. Hopefully, he wants to answer the information of what it is to be a new artist in the industry. But first, before we get him on here, okay, Nenemuisk is an artist management consultancy. My lisp is getting to me. Basically, the consults firm that provides services for recording artists, production companies, celebrities, record labels, and sports entertainers. They provide consulting and overall campaign management for startup ventures, product release, and ongoing oversight of day-to-day operations. This can also be inclusive to artist development, record production, songwriting, artist management, label structure, independent marketing, and promotional services, radio promotion, street promotion, video production, publicity, digital distribution, etc. They've developed marketing plans for artists, release schedules, and set up strategies, including pre-setup, work to influence trade publications, radio stations, media outlets, social media campaigns, and fan club databases. Now, a little history, because I know he probably gets this question like, tell a little bit about yourself, right? Well, guess what? We're going to tell you a little bit about him, okay? Because I'm super proud to have this dude on here. His name, again, Ruben Martinez. He started off as a mobile DJ, all right? That's in high school. I think he went to high school in the Bronx. Okay, shout out to the BX, right? He produced his first national record in 1989, which is still today being used as a dance floor anthem, okay? So this is some legendary thing right here, okay? That same year, he met his musical father, the late Bobby Davis. We're going to talk about that later on because I know that's very, very significant to him. It allowed him to use it. Bobby allowed him to use his record studio and gave him his first shot. Also, as a former writer, producer, and remixer, he has been blessed to work with artists such as Brandy, right? The R&B singer Brandy, Diana Ross, MC Light, Two in the Room, La Bouche. Like, these are names that some of y'all probably like Spotifying them right now. To name a few. From 1995 to 2000, he worked for 2 agencies at the same time, which was Pyramid Entertainment Group and Artist and Audience. Man, let me tell you something. Big shout out to everybody listening. Ruben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the intro.
Man,
how's everything with you?
Yo, man, I'm chilling. I'm trying to be where you at, but not really, because that sounds like it was crazy to get there.
Well, if you could see the gray hairs in my head.
Shout out to the grays. I got a few, but it wasn't those kids. It was my kids that did it. But anyways, so Ruben, starting off as a group, Real to Real, and then you went into the music industry side, or got caught up in the industry. What I want to know is, how did you end up meeting Bobby Davis?
Okay, so I had a little group in high school named Real to Real, and where I messed up was I never trademarked the name.
Ah.
So the group Real to Real right now today is the Matt Stuntman that did I like to move it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's Real to Real. But before he came out, I had a group in high school called Real to Real. It was a freestyle group out of the Bronx. So we ended up working on a few demos. Back then, you had to shop your cassettes out. So think about it. You had to
Cassettes. Let's
yeah
go.
yeah.
Let's go.
Think about it. You had to type up a letter, and then for the most part on a typewriter, and then make photocopies of that letter and leave the dear blank, right? And then have a little bio, have a picture in there which you Xeroxed so that the A&R guy could
Yeah.
get an idea of who you are. And then you had to mail out that cassette. And now you're pacing back and forth, wondering when you're going to get a call, or when you're going to get something back in the mail saying, hey, we heard your record, we liked it, we didn't like it, et cetera, et cetera. So while I'm working on that, and I have this group with a gentleman named Manny Martinez,
Okay.
who's actually my uncle.
Uncle.
Yeah, my uncle from my father's side. My father's father had kids after his first marriage, so this guy technically is my uncle.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
another gentleman named Julio de la Cruz, and Julio de la Cruz was a high school buddy. So Julio actually had introduced me to a gentleman named Esteban Caterino, who had
These names are serious because
Yeah.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
yeah. So Esteban had equipment and in the South Bronx, and I remember we went to him to record our first demo. And as I'm recording these demos, I'm also a mobile DJ, so I'm performing weddings and Sweet 16, so on and so forth. And Esteban is the one that said, Ruben, you should be in a record pool. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, yeah, that's a place where you go and you get the latest records that come out, because you're buying all these records in the store, but you're going to get these records faster because the record labels send records to the record pool first. So it was through him that I went to see Bobby Davis over at Show Record Pool.
Okay.
At the time, you had to audition to be in a record pool. You're paying, it was $100 a month dues that you had to pay, and they wouldn't let you in unless you had a recommendation from either a club owner or somebody that was involved in the music business, or a producer, A&R guy, so on and so forth. So I actually had to audition so I could get in. And so with the recommendation of a few industry people, then I was in. So we had 100 members. When I joined, I was number 98.
What the last? Oh my
Well,
God.
out of 100,
Yeah.
I was 98. But I worked my butt off every time I would go to get records. Like, we had bins where the records would be placed,
Yeah.
and we're getting all types of records: R&B, hip hop, dance, and the ones, number one, number two, number three, and so on and so forth. If a record label sent 50 records, I'm 98. I'm not gonna get one.
Wow.
So I had to push and make sure that whatever records I got, I did my feedback. I made sure to break records where, if there's a record that I like, that I felt the audience will react to it, I would play that record 2, 3, 4 times a day. So by the time that the record went on radio, I already broke the record before it went on radio.
Okay.
So the story goes that I go from 98 to 70 to 50 to 40 to 30, okay, so on and so forth. Eventually, I got to top 5. As far as the biz goes.
Yeah.
So Bobby and I'm getting chills. My hairs are standing up right now.
So good, man.
Yeah,
I feel it.
Bobby, as when he met me, he interviewed me, and he said, "You're gonna go far in this business," and he took me under his wing. I told him that I was doing recordings, and he said, "Guess what I have in that other room?" And I said, "What's that?" He says, "Go ahead, go open the door," and it was a double door. So I pushed one door, and then I had to push another door because of the soundproofing.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman in there named Rolando Maldonado that was his engineer, and Bobby had a lot of equipment in there. And I came out, I'm like, wow, the equipment that I have in my house or the equipment that Esteban had in his house wasn't, what Bobby had.
Yeah.
So now it's like, how and when? He's like, you join the record pool, that's your studio. You just got to you just got to book the time with Misty. Misty was his assistant. You book the time with Misty. No money. You don't have to give me any money. You go, and all I expect for you to do is to give Sure Record Pool credit because now we're your family, right? So I'm in there Fridays, going in at 9 o'clock, coming out at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 1 in the afternoon too, like to the point where Rolando was like, man, we gotta take this up next week because I'm already burnt out, So Bobby liked my production and he said, hey, Nene, I got a record that I want you to remix. So he played me the demo of Alexis P. Sutter,
Get the
Slam It Baby. When I heard that record, I was like, oh my God, because it's a female who had a deep, raspy voice and it sounded like a man. And so I did one of the remixes and the label put the record out and it became a classic where you had Merlin Bob, Timmy Regisford, all the guys from New York on BLS, playing the record. I mean, when you hear your record being played at the shelter, it's like, wow, you know what I mean? So we just had that bond where, till today, I still have my Sure Record Pool jacket. It looks like it's brand new, and I make sure that I mention him as much as I can because he was so influential in my life. He's one of the most influential people in my life because he didn't have to let me use the studio, and he didn't have to give me that opportunity to do that first remix.
Yeah.
From there, I got to meet other producers that were in the pool, and Bobby hooked up the remix with Brandy, hooked up the remix with Diana Ross, and those records I'm not credited on because it's one of those I have to pay my dues.
Yeah.
But when you hear the dance remix, the house remix of Baby Baby, that was me, So, as long as I know and it's on my discography,
Yeah, definitely. That's what really counts. And so, I hear you mention something, which is an incredible backstory to bringing it back fresh out of the high school into the studio, and of course, paying homage to Bobby all the time, which is a big deal. But I hear something in there, the pay your dues, right? What is this myth about the pay your dues? What do you call that? What does it really mean to pay your dues?
Okay, so it's not a myth. It's an actuality, okay? So just let's use that example of what I was talking about where this is the early 90s, right? And there's no internet. There is internet. There's CompuServe. There's America Online, where I would get online on my Commodore 64 and be in a chat room.
Yeah.
And there's a moderator looking to see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Back then, and you're calling on, on your phone, with the signal.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So think about it. I'm here finding a list of record companies that are putting out dance music by looking at the vinyl records, right? Getting the mailing address, looking at Billboard, reading magazines, figuring out who's who in the music business. And then, like I said, typing up a bio on a typewriter, making sure that it wasn't, whited out, making sure that it was perfect, right?
Yeah.
And then doing a photo shoot, dubbing cassettes, making sure the labels were perfect, and then mailing it out, and then having to wait 2, 3, 4 months for a response, negative or positive. In today's world, there are people that go out and they buy a Mac laptop. It comes with GarageBand.
Yeah.
Mac owns Logic.
Yeah.
So, whatever, if they give you a discount on Logic, whatever you're going to use, Cubase, whatever. Now, you go and you produce a track. You go to DistroKid, CD Baby, TuneCore, whatever it is, and you put the record out. And you have nobody A&Ring you and telling you, hey, John Doe, your vocals are off. The chords are off. The vocals are off, on the sync.
Roast them, roast them.
You know what I mean?
Because they be
somebody out there, and now that person thinks he's a superstar, and that person goes on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you don't stop. And
you heard the bars. Go ahead.
Yeah, he or she thinks they're a superstar because they're on social media, and social media is free.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Now you get that same person that calls me out of nowhere and says, hey, I'm an up-and-coming artist. Would you work for me? Can you get me shows? So what's one of the first questions that I ask? What's your website? My Facebook, no. What's your website? I don't have a website. So you're not treating this as a business if you don't have a website. You know what I mean?
Stop.
And so when we're talking about paying your dues, I'm talking about working on projects for free to get your name out there, to get that recognition, to let people know, hey, I really want to do this. I'm hungry. Let me perfect my craft so that I can climb that ladder, And that's what we did back in our day.
Yeah.
When I was in Shure Record Pool, there were other record pools. There was RPBC, there was VIP, there was Starfleet, Ricketts, whatever. We were like gangs back then.
Yo, everybody was a rival.
Yeah, we were rivals, and we had our jackets, and we wanted to make sure that we were the ones that broke records first, and we would have meetings, in clubs, and although there was a rivalry, there was also a unity because we were all in this together. Where we're playing records to the point where that program director would say, man, this record has a buzz. I got to take a chance on this record. In today's world, everything being corporate, you got one program director working 10, 15, 20 stations.
Word.
You know what I mean?
Word.
And having a list of major labels and artists they're going to play. What happened to that little guy that lives in your community that deserves that shot, And so that's part of paying your dues.
Big shout out to that. Shout out to everybody listening. If you just tuned in right now, got Ruben Martinez in the building, CEO of Nenemuisk and the Nenemuisk Network. You guys got to check that out, the podcast. It should be going into the thing. So then you go into something that I feel is the most difficult job in the music industry, and that is management. Am I mything this? Am I throwing this in my own face? Because I know that I had a female friend, super pretty, got vocals, and then I was like, I got a little bit of connections going on here. Let me just, take her under my wing. and then you know it's different, right? You deal with a different type of vibe. But for me, from the ground up, I already could tell, like, if she has a bad day, we're gonna have a bad productive day, right?
Right.
And I'm sure you probably deal with that as with major people and major names, and people don't really see that side because you know it's if they're not on stage. But this started with working with two agencies, right? They gave you the opportunity to exclusively work with these legends. Listen to these legends, people. This is ridiculous. Gladys Knight, Guns N' Roses, Cool in the Gang, Metallica, Nine Inch Nails. Like, this is a whole mosh pit of genres here. Casey and the Sunshine Band, Usher, Paul McCartney. Bro, who are you? Like, no, let me stop. I know who you are. But, you know, just when did the management thing start for you and then, you know, move towards that?
Yeah. So the management thing started because I was a wannabe artist. So when I had the group Reel to Reel, I was doing production, I was doing remixes, and a label in New York called Cutting Records, they had put out a freestyle record by a guy named Nick Mendoza. And it was an instrumental track called MIDI Boy. And previously to that record coming out on Cutting, Aldo Marin, who owns the label, he had put out an album called Two in a Room. And that album had Todd Terry, you know, some of the big house producers on that album. And there was a guy named Dose who had done some vocals on some of the tracks.
Okay.
And so I had approached Aldo and said, hey, you like my group Reel to Reel, sign us and let us become, instead of Reel to Reel, let us become the MIDI Boys.
Ooh.
And so I came up with that idea because at the time, the instrumentation was changing where when you went into the studio, you know, back then you were using a 24-track Reel to Reel on 2-inch tape. But now we're moving away from that and we're moving to the digital side and we're moving to the computers, and that's where MIDI came in. And so Aldo said, hey, as long as you could talk to Nick and you could convince Nick to give you the name, then go ahead and do it. So I went and I called Nick and we went back and forth, and he said, you know, go ahead, do it. So Aldo ended up signing us. Okay. We put out a record called Something Never Met, and I was one of the writers on the song. And we went into the studio, and the day that we went into the studio, Lady Miss Keir is right next door from D-Light.
Stop.
D-Light is recording a record right next door to us.
Right there. Okay.
Right there. We were at D&D Studio.
Okay.
So it was three of us. So by this time, Julio De La Cruz wasn't in the group anymore. We had replaced him with a guy named Willem Padilla. And so we go into the studio, and I go into the booth, and what's coming out of my mouth is garbage. I'm cracking. I'm singing off key. The nervousness is not.
Because what was going on next door?
No, well, besides what was going on next door, it's now I'm in D&D Studios where they have an SSL board, and it's just like super state-of-the-art equipment.
So it's like it's struck. It's like
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So the producer of the record, Victor Franco, you know, he says, well, let's try one of the other guys. So Manny goes in there. Same thing. It's not working. Willie goes in there. Same thing. Let us sing the song the way we're used to singing the song, which was in a harmony.
Yeah.
He didn't want that. He wanted a lead singer. So the session didn't really work out. And so Aldo wasn't happy with the performance, and he suggested adding another guy to the group. And that guy is Eddie Vass.
Oh.
So, yeah. So now I say to myself, look, don't pretend. There's a guy out in the music industry named George Lamond. He's signed to Columbia Records.
Damn.
He's the cream of the top.
Yep.
And I said to myself, if I cannot be as good as he is, then I don't belong in the front. I belong in the back.
Wow.
So I ended up taking myself out of the equation and started so-called managing that group, and then moving from there to working with other artists. And so where the booking agency came into fruition is that um, I had gone from doing the production, the remixing, the management, to now in 1992 creating my own record company. So I'm producing certain groups, and I get a call from a guy named Marty who told me, hey, I want you to produce me. I heard some of your records. And I meet his godfather. Wasn't really his godfather. It was more the godfather. So
Okay.
I met a gentleman named Michael Miracolo who worked at the New York Times, and he was funding this guy named Marty. So I'm producing Marty, and Mike was asking me, what are the next steps? So I said, well, we got to shop this. So this is the process of how we got to shop. Or we could start our own label. And Michael said, we'll take a chance. So I ended up looking for office space. I found a space in Lower Manhattan on 28th Street. I brought my buddy Esteban along. And so Michael, Esteban, and another friend named Lyndon, they were the financial people behind the label that once was International Bad Boy Records. So again, another mistake, and this is why I say paying your dues.
Yo, what? It was like you was paying attention, but not paying attention, right?
Yeah. So the mistake that I made again was that I never trademarked.
I need you to say that again one more time.
Yeah. The mistake that I made while I was paying my dues was that I never trademarked the name International Bad Boys. We're running this label for a year and a half.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's a guy named Sean Puffy Combs.
Yep.
Comes out with Bad Boy Entertainment.
Oh, man.
Which is now distributed by a major. So it's like, I cannot use, although I'm using International Bad Boys with a Z, technically I cannot use Bad Boy because, it's his name now.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So we run that label, and we're putting out different house records, and then we start a subsidiary of that label called Blunted Records. So that was the hip hop label that was under International Bad Boys. So I had signed a guy named Mo Crazy. Okay. I signed T. La Rock's brother, Tony Tone.
Okay.
I signed another group called the Hoods, that they were just like Wu-Tang Clan. They was actually Dougie Fresh's nephews.
They were from the X, right?
They were from, I believe, Bronx or Brooklyn.
Yeah. The Hoods.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're doing dance, we're doing hip hop, and so now what's happening in New York radio is that New York radio stopped playing dance music. They stopped playing freestyle and house music, and now they went urban. So this is the birth of the original KTU, which was on the dial in 92 FM.
Wow, we going back. That's just 212 life.
Right. So now we got KTU, which is WQHT, which is Hot 97. So now they're playing hip hop records, and back then my head was just on dance music. It was just on house music and freestyle music. My heart really wasn't into hip hop. Okay. And, we had a structure and a way of doing things. And I remember that I signed a record from two guys named the Vargas brothers. And I was hounding these guys for this house record they had done called El Trago. Okay? So I'm hounding these guys. They finally give in. They give me the record. I signed the record. And then Michael gets upset with me because he wanted to use the budget that I used on that record for another hip hop record. So we argue, and again, another mistake that I made is that I told Michael, I believe in this record so much that, I'm willing to leave, you know? So eventually I took my ball and I went home. Okay.
Yeah, I know you described it like that. You
Yeah.
basically were a sore loser, took your
Yeah.
ball and went home.
Yeah. So I took my ball, I went home, and I started getting calls from Aldo at Cutting. I want that record. Those from Two in a Room, I want that record. The Vargas brothers, the guys that produced the record, yo, we should sign it to Cutting. So went back and forth with Aldo on a deal, signed the record to Cutting. The record goes gold.
Whew.
Okay, so the record goes gold, and one of the deals that I made with Aldo was, I'm gonna give you this record, but you're gonna let me produce 3 tracks on the Two in a Room album. And he did. So I ended up producing 3 tracks on the Two in a Room album. And so, again, I'm doing production, I'm doing remixes, I'm doing records for Strictly Rhythm, I'm doing records with Todd Terry on Freeze After Dark, on Micmac, Cutting, blah, blah, blah. And now I get a call from a buddy that says, hey, how would you like to work at Pyramid Entertainment? Now, I was already working with them as a promoter because I would book acts from them.
Okay.
So now I get called in to work as an agent, the reverse, where before I was buying acts from them, and now I'm coming in to learn the craft and sell acts.
Ruben, hold up. Before you get into that, because this is like when life changes again, all right? Yeah. I did have a question about this era, because I know that you had this serious passion that was going on for almost a decade. Hip hop comes in and it's basically like, you Puerto Rican?
I'm half Puerto Rican, half Dominican.
Okay, so you a whole New Yorker right there, right?
Whole New Yorker, breakdance, everything.
Boom. So what's really crazy is that even though it was the Mecca, the start, whatever, do you feel like at that time, because it was hip hop, that there was a problem with changing? Because a lot of people do that now, right? They all want to sound similar, and a lot of the old heads are getting mad at that. Do you feel like you had that at that time?
1,000%. You have to think about the groups that were out at that time. Where you had Tila Rock and Curtis Blow and those type of groups. And now hip hop starts changing, where it starts changing to gangster rap, right? So what used to be happy and fun, Roxanne Shante and Dougie Fresh, and people like that, now it's turning into the cocaine and the drugs and the money and the whole street element of it. And so that brought me down, and so when you're working on dance music, for the most part, it's songs about love or they're party records.
Yeah.
Now you got groups that are talking about, shooting you and the drugs and so on and so forth.
Womanizing, all that. It was crazy. It was crazy when hip hop first came out. And I bring that up because a lot of people don't understand that transition from what hip hop was to what it became was actually annoying. It was actually very, very hard. Now, the streets got it. And then it took, like, for me at least, I know about a lot of people are probably going to disagree, but it took about 2 or 3 years to get used to listening to hip hop that much, because it always was an underground thing, especially that kind of hip hop.
Right.
And then when you are trying to get these guys who have commercial records ready for big radio, then all of a sudden the underground is taking over. And you're like, yo, I just worked my whole fucking life for this.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
So I come into Pyramid as an assistant. Again, paying your dues.
Shout out to. So you telling me? Listen, I'm telling you. The reason I'm saying this over and over again is because my audience are talking as if they know the industry. When my boy right here is literally the beginning of the industry and has seen it transform. And of course, you had to change up over time and get used to certain things. And the paying your dues is basically you're not paying nothing but your time.
Yeah.
Your free time. So you're telling me you work for a major management company for free No,
it wasn't for free. I came in, it was an agency, it wasn't a management company, it was an agency. So when I interviewed with the owner, Sal Michaels, okay, it was for me to interview in the dance department. So I was going to be working under a guy named Michael Swagger, okay? And Mike was the guy that I used to book talent from. So if I was doing a freestyle show at a catering hall or a little club somewhere, I would call Michael or another guy named Mark Katz, who was over at Famous Artists, and I will deal with those guys to book talent from them. So now I'm coming in so that I can become an assistant and then turn into an agent. So I'm going to mention this part because it's very important. When I interview with Sal Michaels, Michael Swagger is sitting right next to me. And they tell me to close the door, and they go through my history. You know, what have you done? And I'm a producer, and I'm a songwriter, and I'm a remixer, and I used to own a record company.
Interview. Okay.
Yada, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so this is one of the key questions. Sal Michaels asked me, "Hey, kid," and I still talk to Sal today. We actually worked on a tour before COVID. We're still working on it now, actually. And Sal asked me, "Hey, kid, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I don't know what got into my head, but I said, I'm going to have his job in 3. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have his job in 5. That's a no-no because I just threw the guy under the bus.
Word.
You know, not thinking about it. I'm talking, but I'm not listening to myself. I'm talking, and I should have said something like, "Oh yeah, well, I'm looking for a higher position, blah blah blah." But I actually went and said, "I'm gonna have his job." And the funny thing is that I had his job in 3.5 years.
Yo.
Yeah.
Yo.
And it's because.
Let me give you an applause.
And it's because I'm not throwing Michael under the bus. It's because Michael and Sal had a falling out, and Michael wanted to start his own company, and I had already bought into Pyramid. Not only was I bringing in dance acts, but I also developed the Latin department because we were booking R&B, hip hop, and dance music. Now I'm the one that brings in Latin music. I'm the one that goes and signs Elvis Crespo.
Yo.
Okay, I'm the one that goes and says, "Hey Sal, how do you feel about pro wrestling? Do what you want, kid." And I bring pro wrestling, and I'm doing pro wrestling shows. You know?
Wait, what? Like, oh my God. Yo, big shout out to everybody listening. If you just tuned in, we got Ruben Martinez in the building. We're talking about right now how he was working in 2 agencies. And one at this time. And how he changed the format over there from what they were booking regularly, which R&B, dance, and what else?
Hip hop.
And hip hop, and then you bring everybody. And then you start bringing everybody.
Right.
What made you? Oh my God!
I'm Hispanic, so it's like, why aren't we booking Latinx?
For real? Like bring that shit, right?
Right. So I go and I sign Elvis Crespo.
Elvis Crespo.
Who at the time was performing in clubs, and he's getting $10,000-$15,000 a show. And I work closely with his manager at the time, Wilson Sanchez, and we take Elvis from 15 to 30 to 45 to 60.
$60,000 acts. Like, you cannot book them unless you got 60. Wow.
You know? So again, same thing with the pro wrestling, where, you know, I'm watching WWF at the time, right?
Everybody.
And I'm saying, well, who trained this guy? Who trained that guy? It so happens that the guy that trained a lot of the wrestlers was in Brooklyn, a guy by the name of Johnny Rods. So I called Johnny. Hey, Johnny, my name is Ruben Martinez, blah, blah, blah. Are you available to have a meeting? I go to him. I present him with Pyramid. This is what we do, blah, blah, blah. Let's go to work.
Wow.
Now I'm calling out clubs and asking the clubs, how tall is your ceiling? Oh, it's 30 feet. Good. We could do a pro wrestling show there.
What?
You know? Yeah. And so it goes from there. So I'm in the beginning of my career at Pyramid, I'm working as an assistant and receptionist. Okay? Where
you taking the money and taking the
when it's the receptionist time to go to lunch, I'm the one manning the phone when you're calling.
Yeah.
And you got, promoters that are calling and they hear me, and I'm like, yeah, it's my turn to answer the phone. So I'll call you back in 30 minutes, whatever it is. You know what I mean? But the point is that I pay my dues, and I worked hard so that I became an agent. And the beauty of that was that every 6 months, Sal gave me a raise.
Wow.
Without asking for it. Ruben! In my office. Lock the door. Looking at his paperwork. Okay. So, what's up? What are you thinking about? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Is that all, Sal? No. What else? I'm giving you a raise. So again, another person that's dear to my heart. Sal Michaels, his wife Virginia. So now I'm there at Pyramid.
Yeah.
And what happened? The reason for my departure was that I'm there, and I was married to a recording artist.
Yeah, Amber, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're making a lot of money, and a lot of my attention is on her. Besides the other acts that I represent, a lot of my attention is on her. And what happened now is that Peter Sykes, Fred Hansen, and another gentleman named Carlos, they had left Pyramid without telling Sal.
Wow.
It was one of those things where on a Friday night, they packed up all their stuff and they left. And then one of the agents that was still working, in her back office, she's looking at what's going on, and she ends up calling Sal. And Sal's in Long Island, we're in Manhattan, and so Sal calls an emergency meeting on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And I already had made plans, and I said, Sal, can we catch up on Monday? And so when I caught up with him on Monday, he's like, well, I want to make you the vice president, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Sal, with all due respect, I think it's my time. I don't know what these other guys are doing. I don't know what they're doing. It has nothing to do with me. But I think it's my time to start my own shop. I need your blessing. And he gave me his blessing, and I started my own shop. So now I'm doing my own bookings under Nenemuisk, and maybe about 6 months later, I get a call from Peter Sykes, who's now at Artisan Audience. And Peter and me, we were tight. He was the president at Pyramid, and we were tight. I bought my house in upstate New York because of him, because I used to live in the Bronx.
Okay.
So because of him, to be closer to him, to go shopping, and and to vibe with the president, so that I could learn from him, because he's the agent. He was the agent for New Kids on not New Kids on the Block. I'm sorry, Vanilla Ice, and a lot of the big groups at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm learning from him. I'm learning from Fred. I'm learning from Elise, and then by the time that he calls me into Artisan Audience, so I said, let me look at their roster. And I'm looking at their roster, and they got Guns N' Roses, they got Metallica, they got Paul McCartney. And I said, you know what? Let me go.
Was there a list somewhere? Like, what was?
let me go in there and I'll bring another element to them because they're mainly booking rock. And when Peter came in, Peter brought in the hip hop and R&B. Fred brought in the jazz. Okay. And so now I get to bring in the dance, the Latin, and the pro wrestling into artist and audience. Now, the guy that was the owner of artist and audience, Alex Cochin, that guy was a sweetheart because this guy was like 6'4", motorcycle rider. You know, it was like Sal Michaels was and is the chic dressed, you know, with the military attitude because he was in the military, whereas Alex was more like laid back, sitting on his desk with his feet up, you know, talking on the phone, riding his motorcycle, coming in with a motorcycle jacket, you know. And so it was such a great vibe working there. There was a lady named Lori Michaels, another lady named Debbie. You know, good vibes there. And, you know, Alex was thinking of moving. And again, I said, you know what? It's not going to be the same. Yeah. So I'm gonna just concentrate on Nenemuisk. And so from the year 2000 to today, Nenemuisk is still, you know, rocking and rolling. And I tell people that 90% of my acts have followed me. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Shout to Ruben. Yo. So I hear that during that time that they basically opened up their roster to you, right?
Yeah.
So they basically gave you the access to things, right? And which is super amazing. The core of Nenemuisk, right? The core is to correct me if I'm wrong, but when talents are being misled, and then you could tell or something, or you could figure that out, or maybe they're not getting what they're really worth, or people are taking deals away from them, or I don't know what misled really means in the industry, so pardon me with that, but you take them and give them a lot of worth, a lot of guidance, and all that stuff, and what started as management ended up being a list of stuff, from studios to cameras to record labels, even sign-ins, and all this crazy fan clubs. I even forgot fan clubs used to exist. Shout out to the t-shirts. But what was it something that you saw while you were around that kind of management pyramid and artist and audience that made you fall back and say there's got to be a different way?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there's different managers and they all have different styles. But one of the key things for me was loyalty. Okay. And so, for an example, a guy like Sal Michaels, who I remember and I saw it with my own eyes. Sal bought KC from KC and the Sunshine Band a $25,000 Rolex just as a gift. Okay. Bought his manager the same thing, only to have an act like that leave him about 6 to a year later. You know, and so for me, although he probably books him from time to time today, that's not loyalty, you know? And so I'm looking at things like that, and those are the things where if I get a call from an artist, or I got a call from an artist, you know, back in those days, and I'm looking at their promotion strategy, and I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm checking to see, wait a minute, this is wrong, you know? Why are you gonna go and spend money on a full page ad in a trade magazine that your fans are not gonna read? Ooh. You know, where you could take that money and instead turn it into merchandise that you could give away. You know, if you did a full page ad in Billboard as an example, and let's say back then a full page ad cost, you know, in the 90s, let's say a full page ad cost $5,000, right? So now all you're doing is patting yourself on your back because you see your name, in Billboard, right? Oh wow, here I am in Billboard, right? But you're seeing it. The girl next door doesn't read Billboard. The guy down the street doesn't read Billboard because they're not in the music industry. So all you did was pat yourself in the back.
Yeah.
So people like that, I would say, hey, wait a minute.
Bro, I'm writing this down.
Instead of you spending $5,000 on that ad that only your peers from the music industry are going to read, why don't you go and take 1,000 of that money, make yourself a nice logo, trademark it, right? Now, go get yourself a bunch of tank top white beaters, and all the girls you see on the street, whether they're small, medium, large, or XL, give them things away. Because what's going to happen now? Now, I'm walking down the street, or Dave's walking down the street, or John Doe's walking down the street, and we're men. What's going to happen? We're going to look at the girl.
Yeah.
We're going to make eye contact with the face first. But as men, we're going to look down.
Yeah,
We're going to look at their chest. Right?
Yeah.
So now if we have, artists, blah, they play on the chest, there's means to start a conversation. Like, who's that? Oh, this is a new artist from blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, word of mouth.
Right. And so those are the things when I say where some artists may have been misled or mismanaged.
Okay.
Where maybe that manager had 3 acts, and whatever expenditures he had for his big act, he probably funneled it down to the middle and the lesser act. I've gotten calls from producers, DJs, and recording artists that, asking me, hey, when you go out to dinner, do you charge your artist for that? No, unless he or she was with me and I pay for the tab, then I'll put it in.
And this is management, right? This is
management.
Okay.
I'm just saying in general. Like, I've gotten calls from people in the past.
Which are the talent?
The talent.
Okay.
And I'm not the manager. I'm just
You're
an
just
agent,
a friend.
whatever
This is
it
a
is.
connect, right?
Right.
Somebody they know.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're asking me, hey, I don't want to mention my manager's name, but I'm asking you as a manager.
Okay.
You go out to dinner. Do you charge your artists? Even though it's in my contract, no. Oh, why? Oh, no, because so-and-so charged me for a dinner he had last week. It was $300. But not only did he charge me the $300, he also charged, Billy $300, and he also charged Susie $300, and he also charged, you know what I mean? And it trickled down where the manager charged 8 acts that he had on his roster $300.
Oh my God.
I've been through situations where I've gotten calls
and that's light. And that's light work right there.
And that's light.
Wow.
I've gotten calls from people that told me, hey, John Doe got me for $60,000. What do you mean? Oh yeah, he told me that he will work radio, and he will work this, and he will do remixes, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, he didn't deliver. All he delivered was, a receipt saying, hey, this guy cost this, this much, a remixer that, probably deserved to get $2,000 was now getting 8 or 10.
What?
You know what I mean? The dinners that he had with, so-and-so, at whatever supposed label. So those are the things. So those are like the shystiness and the tricks,
Ruben, I'm not cutting them off, but I'm trying to figure out, like, how accessible were you that some people were able to just call you like that? Because
very accessible, even today, where
I got your number now, so I'm a call.
Yeah. No, you can't.
I'm misleading myself. Like, yo, what?
You can't. I mean, my point is that whoever calls me, they have to be serious.
Yes.
And this
Okay.
is a business for me. This is what I eat from. This is what my family eats from. And so I'm sitting behind this desk Monday to Friday if I'm not on the road. And I'm sitting behind a desk. I'm sitting behind a desktop computer. I'm sitting behind a landline. You know what I mean? Where it's a business. And so whoever wants to call me, they could call me and I will take the time and I will speak to them. But at the end of the day, they have to be serious and they have to treat themselves and their career as a business, you know? And so just last week, I got a call from somebody. Hey, my cousin's son over in Arizona, blah, blah, blah. Do you have time? Sure. The mother of the artist called me. We spoke for a little bit,
Yeah.
sent me some links. I checked out the links. I called her back with feedback. And I explained to her, this is what you need to do from A, B, C, D, you know, and you don't have to hire me. You can hire anybody you want. But these are the mistakes that I see, you know? And so you take it with a grain of salt or you listen to me because I got these and they don't give these for free.
So if you
You know what I
guys don't
mean?
know what he's talking about, he's talking about 40 plus platinum albums in the back?
We got gold, we got platinum, you know. So they,
Yo, I got a
if,
track. Let me stop.
if you think about it, if a record goes gold, the record company has to now give plaques to radio stations around the nation, to the artist, to their manager, to the agent. And when you calculate that one of these costs 150, 200 bucks each, and now you got to make 500 of these, it's a big expense. So yeah, I'm accessible. You know, anybody that wants to call me, they want to email me, they can. But you know, I don't
You
want
gotta be
people to waste my
serious.
time.
You gotta be
Yeah,
serious. And let me give a few names out here. Um, let's start with the musicians, and I just want people to understand. Like we have people like Cascada, Activia, Rob Bass, Jocelyn Enriquez, and then we got like TV reality, film people, which is Dennis Rodman, Hulk Hogan people. I said Hulk Hogan. Okay. Michael Buffer, which is the Let's Get Ready to Rumble guy. Let's get
yeah.
freaking serious. He gets paid mad bread to say that, doesn't he?
And we just finished doing. I'm sorry to cut you off, but with Hulk, I represent his son Nick. So Nick's doing DJing, and then with Michael, before COVID, Michael did the voiceover for Kiss's farewell tour.
Wow.
So when you heard the commercials on the radio, Michael Live Nation came to me to hire Michael to do the voiceover, you know, for the Kiss concert, and that was requested by Kiss. They wanted Michael.
Wow, they want it. Wow.
On those spots. Yep.
That is bananas. And so many other people here, man. Two in the Room, Robin S, Sin with Sebastian. These are like a lot of so many diverse people. What's going on right now that you guys got going on over there at Nenemuisk?
Well, right now we're trying to catch up from COVID because a lot of the shows that we have booked in 2019 got moved to 2020. They got moved again to 2021. The ones that didn't play, I just moved the date this month for the Mad Stuntman. The Mad Stuntman was supposed to play Ireland in October, and it got moved to October next year.
You said Ireland?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, international. What?
Yeah, we're doing dates all over the world.
Bro, can I go somewhere with you? Let me shut up.
Yeah, so we're catching up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dates that got moved. There's dates that are playing now. You know, every country is different. I got a call from a promoter in Romania wanting to book the Mad Stuntman, and you know, just as we were ready to book it, he called me and said, "Hey, we can't do it anymore." What's that? Well, we got taken back from 2,000 people at a club to now 50.
50 people.
So,
Oh, because they're
because of
regulations
COVID
and shit. Yeah.
because of COVID. So now, how can we fly in the Matt Stuntman from, from Florida and recoup with 50 people? It's impossible. So we have to wait. And so that's what's happening. So, on the booking side, that's happening. On the production side, okay, 2 months ago, we put out a record called Test Drive from Hulk Hogan's son, Nick Hogan, and Don Criminals. So that's a dance record, an EDM record that did very well for us. And then we just put out another record from a gentleman named DJ Rooster from Upper Manhattan. He's an old buddy of mine, and that record is also doing well. So, we're always looking for new material to put out. And I have a artist named Rachel Pearl, who's a singer-songwriter who I'm working with. I'm one of the co-managers of the Matt Stuntman. I represent LaBouche on the management side. Another artist named Veronica Jackson, whose husband is Christopher Jackson, who is in Hamilton. He's on the CBS show Bull.
Yep.
He's on all of the Lin Miranda movies, So we work with a lot of different artists who happen to live in different parts of the world.
Very.
Okay.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're doing the best we can in these turbulent times with the whole pandemic.
Ruben Martinez in the building right quick. If you guys didn't know, Nenemuisk started it off in high school as a mobile DJ. Next thing you know, he snuck in the music industry. Let's really get serious with that. By an old friend. And then, became a manager and then decided to go ahead and do it himself. And now this roster is beyond the amount of people that I can ever understand. My thing is sometimes, and you could probably understand this part, is sometimes these artists are already developed in the eyes of the fan. In the eyes of the fan. And you as someone that's internal already know that there's flaws in there. There's money, there's probably calendars, they're not using their time right. One of the biggest things where you said where an artist will spend a lot of money just to try to get on the same magazine as somebody else is in the front, and you don't even know if they're even going to read it. And I see that in the underground world where people are just hopping on, a page, but they don't understand that you're just paying the magazine, to print your stuff, right? And I'm not trying to knock magazine people and stuff like that. Because that's a grand old hustle that I don't know nothing about. Wait till I get you guys on here. But the thing is like when you and I was gonna ask the question about how do people contact you, but it seems like you're accessible.
I'm accessible.
The part that I don't understand is when does an artist know, or what is the average amount of when the artist knows that they probably could get more? Like when do they know? Because that's going to be very, very hard. You can come over here and probably tell me straight up, like, yo, I could sell you this bottle of air real quick. And then, you have your ways, like, think about this, think about that. But they don't know this. They don't. Yeah. And then to have an artist that has been accustomed or used to a certain way to try to transition, because I know the Hulk wasn't with you forever. This is like NWO type of, and post wrestling life, right? So, bro, you got to let me know, like, when does an artist know? Like, when do you know that an artist knows?
Well, and with Hulk, it's for appearances. I'm not his manager. I just want to make that clear. That's just for him to go and do appearances. He shows up to a venue, he signs autographs. Yeah, right? Understood. So when do I know? I'm going to give you an example of an artist, and I'm not going to mention her name, but there's an artist that a few years ago I was consulting with another friend of mine, and this artist has been around for over 2-3 decades. Whew. And when she came to me, she was being managed and is still managed by somebody else. So I came in as a consultant. With my buddy Gary to look at the flaws and fix those flaws. So one of the things that I saw was how we started this conversation, a website. She didn't have a website.
What?
So I went in and I created a website for her. She didn't have a logo. I went in and I designed a logo for her. Okay? She didn't have merch. I went in and I designed merch for her. Okay? And so you're talking about an artist that has been around for 20, 30 years that was missing these things.
And it was
And
well
so-
developed and established in the fans' eyes.
Yeah, in the fans' eyes, yeah, performs all over, all over the U.S., some gigs in Canada, right? In the fans' eyes, that artist is wow. But then in my eyes, when I look at the numbers and I say, okay, when your manager books you, he gets you X. When I book you, you get Y. So there's a gap right here. And when I have to call the manager and say, hey, we have to be consistent. If I'm quoting, let's just say $1,
Yeah.
you can't be quoting 50 cents because then people are going to think that I'm a thief.
They're going to find it out. They're going to find out regardless. Yo, how much, right?
They're going to think, well, why is Ruben charging $1 when I could go get it for 50 cents? So now you just devalue the artist.
Yeah.
Right? And then you devalue the artist by not doing the research and helping the artist have proper branding, right? Because, again, that artist, she's selling T-shirts. Her logo looks pretty. Every time I see it, I get to smile and say, hey, I designed it.
I did that. Okay.
Even though I'm not getting the credit for it, and hey, big shout out to Ruben Martinez.
But it's still what the goal is. It's still what the goal is. The goal is, yes.
And so the goal is to take an artist and grow. And you want to keep growing because the competition starts getting harsher and harder because you're competing against other artists who are signed to other labels that may have more money than you. And so this business is about spots. You want to get in a spot and maintain that spot. There's always going to be that younger person that's prettier, that can sing better, et cetera, and they're going to punch you and take you out of the way, So these are things that I analyze, and I look at things and, hey, if I hurt your feelings, that's on your ego. If I sit down with you and I talk to you, and let's say you're a hip hop artist, right? And the first thing that I see when you send me the link to your music video, if the first thing that I see is you holding a wad of money, then what you're telling me is that you're broke. Because if you have money, you don't need to show it.
For real.
You show it by you walking, getting out of your car and walking onto your jet plane. You show it to me when there's a scene in your mansion that you're in your swimming pool in your mansion.
Yeah.
You show me that you have money like that. You don't show me money because you're holding a wad of
child support. Child support. I know it is.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So with the hip hop artists, that's one of the things that I analyze. And I also tell them, look, if I'm going to roll with you, you got to look like a star. I manage Greg Nice from Nice and Smooth. Greg Nice is a star. He's a legend.
Yep.
He's on LL Cool J's Rock the Bells. You know what I mean? He was just on Thriller with Big Daddy Kane versus KRS-One.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Record he did last year, Run the Jewels, Ooh La La, nominated for a Grammy. On the soundtrack for the NBA 2K live video game. You know what I mean? This is an icon. So I tell the hip hop artists of today, when you record music, make sure that your music has substance, and also make sure that you're branding yourself in a proper way so that the consumer buys the music and stays with you. There's a lot of one-hit wonders.
A lot.
You know what I mean?
A lot.
A lot of them. But there's a difference when you say the name Run DMC. There's a difference when you say Cypress Hills or the Beastie Boys or Jay-Z or Ludacris or Busta Rhymes. You know what I mean? These are the pioneers when it comes to the urban business. And it's the same thing with the Latin side. It's the same thing with the dance side. It's the same thing with the jazz side.
Yeah, everybody
Huh?
got their names. Everybody
Exactly.
got their names. They could consistency. But
Consistency.
it's so crazy. You know what? I caught on to something that you just said, which is kind of like bugging me out a little bit. But when there's this thing, we're going through another transition where you as an exec, I can call you that.
Yeah.
You as an exec know that the artist has to have substance, but then the radio is playing something else. We're going into this world now where me as a guy that I only listen to the underground now because
Right.
I'm so tired of I call it ignorant radio, which is crazy because I want to get into
Yeah.
it, but at the
Yeah.
same time it's like I'll get into it and then I'll try to figure out my way, right? But
Yeah.
it's getting to that time where people are listening to radio and they're like, yo, I don't even understand these people. I don't,
Yeah.
you know, haven't they been in a while? You know what I mean? Like, and it's
Yeah.
not even only hip hop because some of our own Latin guys, they don't even know what to talk about no more in their songs, and they be like potato, potato.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's getting
Yeah.
ridiculous. So as an exec, how do you know what substance is? And I know we're going into that one hit wonder life, but some of
Yeah.
these guys are actually making 4 or 5 hits.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the reality of it is that the music business has changed. And so payola has been around since the beginning of time, and it continues to be there today.
Listen to me.
So
Listen to me. Say that again.
the payola has been around from the beginning of time, and it still exists today.
Okay.
So,
And we're
so
gonna
when
take
you have,
notes of this one, guys. I need y'all to pay attention. Go ahead.
so when you have artist John Doe and the label is spending 250, 300,000 to make sure that that person's record is being played on the radio, right? So that artist has a bigger advantage than the smaller guy that doesn't have that budget, right?
Yeah.
So back in my day, because I'm gonna date myself again, back in my day, we had to grind to get that shot. In today's world, because everything is digital, you got people doing mixtapes, you got them going on social media, and they're trying to cut the line. And a lot of them do, right? And so my son listens to top 40 radio. I got two boys. One is 11, the other one's 5.
Okay.
So
They about
they
that
listen,
whip life right there. There you go.
yeah. So they listen to top 40 radio. So I'm going to give you an example where before he was born, I would listen to house music, soulful house, hard house, progressive, blah, 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 right? So he's in my wife's belly jumping up and down
Okay.
because we're rocking that while we work, right? He's born. He's, daddy listens to everything. So I listen to reggae, I listen to soca, I listen to merengue, salsa, et cetera, right? But mainly, when I'm driving somewhere, I'm listening to that music, right? So he's growing, he's getting older. But when I'm putting the music on, he's frowning because it's not the top 40 stuff that he's listening to
Yeah.
on the radio.
Yeah.
So he's used to listening to the top 40, right? So I used to play a podcast from the UK called Defected Records. And Defected Podcast, they have a podcast called Glitterbox, right? And so I'm listening to that podcast. And, there's soulful house records on there, et cetera, gospel house, blah, blah, blah. And now there's an artist named Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa. She has a song called Don't Start Now. Okay? And the producer, before that song, she had another record, I forgot the name of it. But, that producer used elements from those songs that my son was hearing. Right?
Oh, okay.
So now, this artist has broken worldwide. She's an excellent artist. But now I get to go back to my son and say, that song that you already heard it before from another artist because this music was already being played in the car. You just didn't want to give Daddy the opportunity.
Yeah.
But now because a label has taken the artist and has spent millions by now to brand her, you know what I mean? And she's a good-looking girl, and she sings well, you know. Now you're paying attention to Daddy's music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the analogies I can give, especially, you know, with kids, you know, when they're hearing something over and over and over and over, and you're not going to like it because you know it doesn't have any substance. I'm not going to like it because I know it doesn't have any chemistry, right? And so it is what it is. These are the times that we're living in, you know, where hopefully it gets better before it gets worse.
I don't even know what better is. I think people are going to start humming. It's going to be crazy.
There's a lot of bad material out there.
It's so crazy because a lot of artists take a lot of this advice and they some of them are not consistent with it. Let's get serious. They'll go in there, they'll be good at one thing and then they'll missing the other part and all this and all that, and next thing you know, they either their timing is wrong or it's like they didn't invest in themselves. You know, these people, these artists, these wannabe managers, I'm gonna call them wannabe managers.
Yeah.
I gotta call them that because they don't know what they're talking about. They hear a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna come with some terminology right now. For you as an industry guy, what does it really mean? Okay. Now, a manager. What is a manager?
Okay. So a manager is a person that works with the recording artist and helps them and guides them. Okay. So a manager can help with listening to the artist's music, giving that person advice on their music. Okay. I like the record, but maybe you want to change the lyrics of this verse. Maybe you want to change the hook. Maybe you want to add a bridge over here. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is the branding. People use that word loosely.
Like crazy. Like crazy.
And everything is I'm a brand. I'm a brand. Where's your logo? I don't have one. You're not a brand. Right?
There's no identification to it. You just...
Right. If Ford wants to sell a car, right? They're running spots on television. They're running spots on the radio. You buy the newspaper, you'll see the ad there, right? And then now you have social media, which is cherry on the top. So again, the manager works with the artist within their budget because a manager is not a bank. Okay? There are some managers that invest in their groups and they do put up money, okay, on recording sessions, on photo shoots, et cetera, okay? Somebody that comes to me, I tell them from day one, I'm not your bank. As long as you have the finances and you're willing to spend the money properly, I'm gonna make sure that you spend the money on the right people. In other words, if I could get you a photographer that normally makes $2,000 for a photo shoot, and I have a good relationship with that photographer, and now he's gonna give me that photo session for $1,500, I just saved you $500. And it's a photographer that has a name, that has a repertoire of, you know.
And that's another thing, right? That's another thing that I wanted to talk about, but we'll definitely talk about that right after. Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, the music, the artist visual, not only the artist visual, but how the person talks. Okay. And I will give you an example. This weekend, I was on the road with Victor Manuel.
Yeah. You was down. You just passed my state. I'm out here in VA. I was like, yo, he's in North Carolina right now.
I was in Reading, Pennsylvania, and then I was in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Victor Manuel as an example because Victor Manuel is a salsa artist that has turned into a legend.
Yes.
Okay.
I used to listen to him as a kid.
Okay.
Let's get serious.
When you listen to Victor Manuel, right? You know that it's Victor Manuel because almost 99% of his songs, he goes, eh.
Yep.
If you listen to Elvis Crespo, who does merengue, who had a huge hit with Suavemente, was playing on top 40 radio. American radio was playing Suavemente,
Yep.
Besame.
Yeah.
Elvis, in 99% of his songs, says, Pequeña,
Yeah.
échate pa' acá,
Yeah.
right? And so that's branding,
Yes.
where people hear the artist and go like, oh, that's Elvis Crespo, that's his new joint. Oh, that's Victor Manuel. And so, again, it's about having everything set up
place,
in the right place. And that's what a manager does.
Big shout out to everybody listening. If you're just tuning in, Ruben Martinez, CEO of Nenemuisk and Nenemuisk Network, which is a podcast thing that we're going to get into right here. The thing that I was going to talk about is these names, right? People forget, you got a friend that does video. People got, you got a friend that does photography. That's cool. But I think for an artist to understand that there are photographers with names, there are videographers with names, and they might have to invest in those kind of situations because first of all, your video is going to come out fire. Your photos are going to come out fire, and not only that, you need naming. You need somebody that has a following, because what they're going to do is they're going to make sure their work is at 1,000 because they have a mission for themselves. And not only that, it'll help the artists. When you come across, if you came across artists that have not invested themselves in that kind of position, how do you convince them to not work only with their friend or their local photographer or their iPhone guy?
That's a hard situation, because I'm going to give you an example on the reggaeton side or on the merengue side or the salsa side.
Okay.
There's the cousin, the brother, the wife, the girlfriend that went from working at a car dealership to now becoming a manager. Okay? and that happens a lot.
Yo, not for nothing, but that's so Hispanic. Let's get serious, right? I'm sorry.
It happens on the hip hop side too. It happens on the dance side too.
I'm just saying, like, what?
Yeah. And so that's the problem, where I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but if the artist came to me, I say respectfully, I cannot talk to you because you're signed to somebody else, and I don't really want to interfere with what he or she's doing with you.
Yeah.
It's called tortious interference. So if and when you don't work with that person anymore, please feel free to call me. Now, if I could give you like a general advice, then okay, I could give you that. But what I don't want to do is throw the other person on the bus. Now,
what's that term called? What's that term called? Torture.
It's tortious interference.
Torture interference, and usually people go to court when those situations come up.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, let's say you're signed to Irving Gazelon, who happens to be one of the biggest managers in the world. I can't come in and start talking to you and telling you, oh, I want to be a manager, this, that, and the other. Because the first thing that's going to come out of your mouth is, hey, Ruben, I'm already working with Irvin. If you need anything, call him. You know what I mean? Try to work it out. Now, I could keep on you and on you and on you. And let's say I persuade you, and you come to me, and Irvin finds out, then Irvin could sue me, So again, going to those people that have the brother, the cousin, the uncle, et cetera, I always say to them, okay, what is it that you're doing? What is your plan? Not just for today, but for 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What is it that you have projected? And hopefully the artist can answer that. You know what I mean? And I have to make that phone call and count on the so-called manager to answer it. You know what I mean? The artists have to take responsibility for themselves as well. You know what I mean? And they have to figure out where they want to be. And there's going to be people that are going to be complacent and they're going to be happy where they are. And there's people that decide they don't want to do it anymore and they want to retire and they were smart and they invested their money properly, you know, and now they're doing real estate, whatever it is. One of the guys from, I don't know if it's New Kids or Belle Biv DeVoe, he's in real estate and he's doing real good. And on weekends he goes and performs. You know what I mean? So it just depends on the artist and every situation is different.
So that before we get into the podcast and the network that you got going on, that is a question, right? To the fans' eyes, this is all they do. This is all the artists do. To the fans' eyes, they go to interviews. That's all they do. They perform. That's all they do. They got real lives, don't they?
Yeah, they have real lives, and some of them have not made enough money yet to do this completely for a living. Some people work real estate. Some people work, for a beer distributor, whatever it is. You know, when they're doing that job there, they are their own person. But when they are supposed to be an artist, and that's when the makeup comes on, that's where the nice clothing comes on, that's where the jewelry comes on, and they turn into that persona. Because, you know, in real life, that's just what it is. So there's different people and different situations, and I could tell you for a fact that there's a large majority of people that have careers in the music industry, but also have different types of jobs, you know?
Wow.
The smart ones were the ones that made good money, and then they invested that money. They opened up a restaurant, they opened up a clothing store, you know, they opened up some sort of business in real estate where it's generating income for them, where they could go by and supervise.
Yeah, they don't have to work.
Right, and they don't have to actually be there the whole day. They could see them through the video camera now.
Yeah.
And if they see something off, they can call, you know, and then stop by the place of business and try to fix, you know, whatever problem they have.
Big shout out to everybody listening. Ruben Martinez, man, it's such a good talk right here. But now I want to get into this Augusto Cho right here. Augustus Cho, one of your podcasters on the Nenemuisk network. So I know that 2020 probably didn't have anything to do with this, because somebody like you probably was already innovative and said, yo, we got to do this damn podcast stuff because it's lit, it's crazy, people are going towards the internet now. When did you start your network?
So this was on my cheat sheet, okay? I'm sitting behind my desk, and I'm going to show you something. And right here, I have a list of things to do.
That is a serious list.
This one side is things to do. This other side has links and people that owe me money.
Okay. I need a list like that.
So I have it, and this is just the business side of it.
Yo.
And I have another list here that is things to do in the house. Okay?
That's ridiculous. I thought I was the only one with a list like that.
Yeah. So things to do in the house, something that I want to buy, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It sits on my desk because it's my cheat sheet. So yeah, the podcast is something that I wanted to do for a while.
Okay.
And again, just like the music business, where I saw myself and I said to myself, I cannot be the person in the front. I have a business partner that I work with. I have two business partners. One is, her name is Lazara Perez, and Lazara does the Latin bookings with me. And then I have another gentleman named Mitch Faulkner, and Mitch does the celebrities and the sports entertainers, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I started getting into merchandising, I spoke to them and I said, hey, if you know any artists that want to do merch, let me know. We'll work out a deal. You know, in today's world, they don't have to carry merch on the road. They could have a little postcard with a barcode that they could scan, and the fan could buy the merch right off of the phone,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So that's
Nice.
one side. The other side was the podcast. Hey, Mitch, do you know anybody that wants to do a podcast? Well, let me start calling some of my people. So call up Willis McGahee, the football player. Call up Bryce Wilson, the pitcher for Pittsburgh Pirates. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Yeah.
And then he turned me on to a guy named Augustus Cho, who is an actor. He was in the movie G.I. Joe where he played the North Korean leader,
Yep.
and he's been on other TV shows, Eastbound, Down and Out, et cetera, et cetera. And I spoke to him, and I said, hey, would you be interested? And he said yes. So we've been grinding, and as of last week, it's our 1 year anniversary with his podcast,
Nice.
and we've had interviews with a lot of major celebrities and athletes.
I'm looking
and
at
pro
this list
wrestlers.
right here. This is ridiculous. Terry
Yeah.
Watkins, Jackie Gore, freaking Chuck Palumbo, the legendary wrestler. Wow, Jeff Jarrett. What's up with you guys in wrestling? I know it, but it's it's all good.
Yeah, well, we fit all different types of genres.
Savio Vega was in here, the only Puerto Rican wrestler I know about. Like,
Yeah. So we had different genres of music and acting, and we had an actor, Dick Graham Tulane, that was on there. And then with my other partner, Laza, she was doing this weekly chat on WhatsApp, where she would get
Okay.
together with promoters on WhatsApp, and it was like 5, 10 of them. And I said, "You're doing this? Why don't we just make it into a podcast?" And she's like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, let's make it into a podcast." And they started sending me the files. I started editing it,
nice.
and that podcast was like one of the top 5 podcasts in the Dominican Republic. So this again, these are things where I didn't want to be the one doing an interview. I figured there's other people that can do that,
Yeah.
and I'm happy sitting behind the scenes and working with these creative people that are doing wonderful work.
This is amazing. Big shout out to everybody listening. If you haven't yet, go ahead, go to your local podcast app right now, the Nenemuisk Network. Each week, the Nenemuisk Network brings you some of the biggest names in pop culture, including celebrities, comedians, DJs, international recording artists, and sports entertainment. Listen, that's crazy. I don't know. I don't even know how I got Ruben on here. But the thing is like, I've been doing this alone for a very long time. Alone for a very long time. There's a serious, serious struggle. And one of the things is gathering all this information. People got questions all day. Right now, I got South Carolina's own Hanging or Bang It on Twitch. They're asking this question, and we're going back to the industry real quick. The question are, what are some of the reasons why artists get dropped and owe money afterwards?
Okay, so some of the reasons, it could be different variables. Okay, I'm going to give you a situation, a personal situation where I used to work with a gentleman named Aaron Brasso.
Okay.
And Aaron Brasso and I were partners, and Aaron passed away a few years ago. And Aaron introduced me to a guy that lived in his area called Cupid. And Cupid was selling CDs out of the trunk of his car. He had a record called the Cupid Shuffle. You familiar with the record?
Yep.
Okay. So Cupid was doing good because he was grinding, and he came up with a little bit of money, and now he starts working radio in his region. So he's working Louisiana, he's working Georgia, he's working Florida, he's working Mississippi, and he's creating a buzz. So now what happens? Now Cupid is taking ads away from the Rihannas, from the Missy Elliott's, so on and so forth. So what do the labels do? They find out who he is. They come to Cupid and they offer him a deal. He ends up signing with a label, And I'm just gonna give you numbers that are off. I'm not gonna give you correct numbers, but let's say that out of the trunk of his car, he sold 25,000, right?
Okay.
He signs with a major label. Now he goes and sells another 150,000. So now the label got what they wanted. So if they came up with a follow-up single and he didn't sell more than what he had before, then they're gonna drop him. And because labels charge you for everything, they're gonna charge you for the publicity, they're gonna charge you for the radio promotion, they're gonna charge you for the tour support, they're gonna charge you for the production. At the end of the day, you're gonna be left with a tab. So the label's gonna come back to you, and if you're an artist they believe in, they're gonna work with you. The next time you have to re-up your agreement, it might be less money. And you might have to take the less money because they took a shot on you. And now you got to take a shot on them to try to create that magic all over again. So, that's one of the reasons why artists get signed, they get dropped. Because, again, if they're working artist X and that's the top of their food chain, and here comes John Doe and it's taking a little bit of food off of John X's, table, then they want to make sure they can control that.
Wow. If anybody got any other questions, you already know the deal. Shout out to everybody listening. Thank you so much for that question. Thank you, Ruben, so much for that answer. So Hanging Urbana, so you mean they signed him just to set him up to fail? Do you think he still owes that money? And I think maybe I can answer this. Tell me if I'm wrong, okay? They do sign artists because they believe that the artist will make the record label money, okay?
Correct.
They are investing in you as if you are worth this much because we believe you're going to make us maybe quads or 10 times more. So, yes, the intention for the label is to make you fail. A lot of artists have said that in some of their songs too, where the industry is made in a way to make you fail. Now, again, like Ruben said, if there are artists that they believe maybe that was a flop or maybe we did something wrong with you going on, that thing. Now, I don't know if Hang It or Bang It was here in the beginning, but let me reintroduce Ruben Martinez real quick. He is a artist management consultant and stuff like that. And usually he'll fix what the artist is missing when it comes to their branding and when it comes to the whole bunch of stuff to make what maybe from what I'm looking at this 10 times what they're really worth. With the Elvis Crespo situation, 10 times what he was worth. Go ahead and tell me what I'm missing in there.
Yeah, well, I don't want with the gentleman that asked the question. It's not that they're signing you to fail, because no, that's stupid business. They're signing you to make much more than what you were originally grinding at. If you're out there and you're selling 5,000 units, okay? In today's world where, I want to give you an example. Back in my day when I was DJing, I was buying vinyl records, singles for $4, $5. Vinyl is back. People are selling vinyl for $40, $50, right? So with inflation, look at where it's gone, where I used to pay $4 for a single. And when I was DJing, I would buy 2 copies so that I could mix back and forth from that record, where now, there's people selling vinyl for $40, $50 or even more because it's more of a collector's, item, right? So, no, the label's not signing you to fail. The label's signing you to win and to control. That the moral of the story of Cupid was that they wanted to control because he was grinding by himself. And so now if he signs with label X, now they're able to control. And, they're able to now tell him your release is going to come out September 15th. Whereas if he was doing it on his own, he could have picked whatever date he wanted. You understand? And so those are the things that I want the people that are watching this and listening to this, is that the label is a place that has money and they have to work within budgets. So they're given a budget and they're supposed to bring in a return on that investment, right? A lot of the labels today are on the stock market.
Whoa, I didn't know that shit.
Oh yeah, you have labels that are out there that you can buy shares on the stock market, just like you could buy the UFC on the stock market, just like you could buy William Morris Endeavor, which is a booking agency. They're on the stock market as well, you know. So these are conglomerates, and so they're working within budgets. That doesn't mean they're not sneaky, okay? I can tell you from experience that when I'm going over royalties and I'm looking at statements, I'm finding things that don't belong to my artists. And then I have to call the accounting department and say, wait a minute, you're charging me this when we didn't do this. And you're charging me that when that doesn't pertain to us. Oh, that's a mistake. What did they do? They took something from this artist and threw it into my account.
Wow.
You follow?
Wow.
And those things happen. And that's just the nature of the business, you know?
Crazy. Whew, yeah. Those numbers, yo, I don't know. Shout out to everything you do, bro. Damn. Out here. I think there was one question here, but I think a lot of history goes even back to the 90s. So you mean they signed him just, no, that wasn't the question. The question was, if you still owe money to one label, does that stop you from signing to another?
It depends. If your contract is up and they release you, then you should be good. Now, on the back end, you're not going to see money until you recoup. You understand? So let's take the gentleman that asked the question as an example. That gentleman went out there and he grinded, and he found a producer, and he found a good photographer, and he found a person to do a nice video for him, and he went and he did his logo, he did his website, and he did promotion in his area where people know him, they recognize him now, he's got a buzz going, and now they sign him. Now what the label's gonna do is they're gonna multiply what that person did by 100, because within the label, they have their own PR department, they have their own radio department, they have their own social media department, et cetera, et cetera. So now they're putting their money behind the gentleman that asked the question. And so now they're expecting that buzz that he created to continue and to get bigger. And so you're going to get feedback from people that are now in the mainstream, you know, that are listening to his record that may not like his record. If the record's international, they may not like his record, you know, and then it might not sell, and it might not get the radio play that it's supposed to get. And so that's when they say, okay, we're going to release you. However, you still owe money, the money that we spent, right? Yeah. So they're going to continue selling that record until they recoup their money back. And when they recoup that money back, it could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then you might get a call, hey, are you still at this address? Oh, good, okay, because we got a check to send you. Because you finally recouped.
Wow. So it's starting to make sense to me, because I sometimes hear artists, sometimes they can't perform certain songs at concerts. Sometimes they can't. Is that something else?
No, that's something else.
Okay,
that may be an agreement that they had with the songwriter or the publisher, whatever it is. You know, maybe they did a cover song of somebody, and that person doesn't want them performing their material anymore. But no, that's something totally different. When it comes to the artists, I mean, for the most part, I have artists that have signed to 3 labels, 5 labels, 10 labels.
The fuck?
Yeah, because they did
Because certain songs, I don't care. I don't know what that is.
deals with options. You know what I mean? So you have to remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
What you have to remember now is that we've passed that whole album cycle. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna date myself again. Back in my day, right? Back in my day, we put out a record and we worked that record for 9 months. So we were out performing that record while we were still recording, right? Then we put out the follow-up single. And then we worked those 2 records for another 6 to 8 or 9 months. And then we put out the album. That's why when labels sign you, they're not signing you for 1 year, they're signing you for 5 years. Because they want the longevity, right?
Yeah.
In today's world, people putting out a single every other month. You'll hear BTS, which is the Korean boy band, and you'll hear one record, then you hear another record, you hear another record. Same thing with Justin Bieber. I Get My Peaches in Georgia. Then he's got another record. Then he's got another record. Then you got Bruno Mars. Because remember, we live in an age that's digital, and people's brains cannot handle,
Yeah,
the multitasking, right? So they're coming out with record after record after record after record.
I don't know if this question makes sense because of something. My boy got a lot of questions right now. I don't know if he's really trying to ask questions or not, but what collateral can artists bring to the table to get the best deal possible?
Well, for me, the best collateral they can make and bring to the table is investing in themselves. Okay? When I meet a new artist, I tell that new artist, you have to make sure that you look like a superstar. And I'm going to give you an example. When Pitbull first came out, Pitbull was wearing t-shirts, jeans, and sneakers.
Yep, straight up.
You look at Pitbull now, he's wearing suits. And he went from being an artist that was probably making $5,000 a show to making more than $500,000 a show, right? So that if you see Pitbull on a TV show, you see Pitbull walk into a hotel lobby, people are going to go like, oh, who's that? Because he looks like a star, right? So if you invest in yourself where you look like a star. Now, what do I mean by looking like a star? If you're wearing sneakers and jeans, you look like everybody else. Come up with some branding. Rihanna is different than Cardi B. Cardi B is different than Katy Perry. Katy Perry is different than Jennifer Hudson. They all have their different styles. They all have their different sounds. So if you come to a label and you say, hey, I already got my logo, I already got my trademark, I already have the branding, right? I've invested XYZ. And the way I did it was that within a mile of my house, I started talking to my neighbors and letting my neighbors know who I am, right? And once they knew who I was, then I expanded from that 1 mile to 5 miles. Now I'm talking to all these other people within the 5 mile radius, and they know who I am, and I'm performing in the local clubs.
Yeah.
And now I'm expanding to 10 miles.
10 miles.
And now I'm going now to 15, 20, 30.
I've literally been hearing this for years.
Right.
I've literally been hearing this for years. This is old school type of grind that still works. That still works.
And now with the internet and the social media, you have people that are lazy. that they prefer to sit behind a computer and start tweeting and posting when they could be outside grinding. You know what I mean? There's something that you get every month, comes right to your mailbox. It's a bill.
It's a bill.
Right?
For real. They be coming.
Every month you're gonna get a bill for your cell phone, for your mortgage, for your car payment, etc., right? That company that's providing you with a service is sending you a bill every month. So why is it that if you're an up-and-coming artist, you cannot get well-dressed and go out and hit the streets and start talking to people? When I'm talking about pre-COVID and after COVID, when it's safe.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is John Doe, and my group is called MVD, and this is the new single that we have coming out. You know, there's a barcode on there, scan it, and there's a free single that you can listen to. And now you handed the person something, and they could do two things. They could put it in their pocket and say thank you, or they could throw it away. For the most part, they're not gonna be rude. They're gonna put it in their pocket.
Yeah.
They're gonna get home. They're gonna throw it on their coffee table. They're gonna throw it on, they're gonna put it on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
But some way, somehow, they're gonna check you out. And they're gonna pay more attention to you because you actually spoke to them and you actually handed them something, versus you're competing on social media, right?
Yeah.
So who wants to see me talk on social media when there's a girl on her cell phone taking a picture of herself from a dirty bathroom in a bikini?
Yo, you saw the soap? You saw the soap?
Yeah. And so that girl didn't even think that she's inside a bathroom where there's germs.
Yeah.
But you know what? The guy that's looking at her or the girl that's looking at her doesn't care, because they're looking more at the sex appeal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so while I'm trying to post something that's meaningful, which is music, because music changes people's lives.
Yeah.
Right? That person that was listening to me left me and went to check out the girl. You know? And so that's why I say, and we go right back to paying your dues. You got to go out there. You got to grind. You got to hit the streets. You got to make the phone calls. You know what I mean? You have to take the time to actually handwrite a letter, to somebody and say thank you. People don't do that anymore. Back in our day, we used to write notes. Hey, Priscilla, I like you. Do you like me?
Yes or no? Let's go.
Yes or no? Hand it down.
I got 3,000 no's right now. You don't even understand.
Right? We used to get on the phone. We would be talking to the girl 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. What are they doing now? Beep, 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 beep.
Boom, boom, boom.
Beep,
Two.
beep, 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 beep.
That's it.
Oh,
next.
Here's a pic. Come on.
I saw the angle. Ruben, you
Come
gotta stop.
on. Get out of here.
Big shout out to everybody listening in. Ruben Martinez in the building, giving us a lowdown inside the industry. Nenemuisk, he's been doing this for a long time, and a lot of different genres, managed a lot of people, developed more of a growth for so many names. I want to remix this for a lot of people. She started, Brandy, Diana Ross, MC Light, Two in the Room, LaBouche, got his hands on working with Gladys Knight, Guns N' Roses, Kool and the Gang, Metallica, Nine Inch Nails, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Usher, Paul McCartney. These are names that you guys probably are rocking in your Spotifys and all that right now. But he's actually doing, you guys are working out a tour right now, right? You guys are working out a tour?
Yeah, well, we have several tours that go out, but one of the tours that we are pushing right now is a tour called Decades of Dance. And on this package, we have Jenny Bergen of Ace of Base.
Okay.
LaBouche, Wanda D of the KLF, Reel to Reel featuring the Mad Stuntman, Sharvani from Black Box,
Yeah.
and the return of Jocelyn Enriquez, because Jocelyn Enriquez was on hiatus for a few years, so she's coming back to be on this package.
Nice.
So this is a package with groups from the 90s that have gone gold and platinum worldwide. And as the pandemic starts going away, you're gonna be hearing about this package in your area.
So when it comes to like, because I'm hearing a package, it's like you got to sell it to these people, right? You basically, just because they have a name doesn't mean anything. It just means, hey, we got a ton, we got this, we got that. I don't want to talk too much details because we probably got some superstar promoters in the chat right now that are probably gonna take the formula. But when you're selling a tour, people don't understand. Like, it's not just a name. It's just not booking. You just sell. It's hard sometimes, right?
It's very hard because you gotta find promoters that know the artists and know what they mean to their market. And those artists have to put asses in the seats, right? So you have to start off with getting what's called anchor dates. So you're gonna get a Friday and Saturday, and you have to route it properly, right? So let's say I have a Friday in New York, I have a Saturday in New Jersey. Now I can move to Pennsylvania on a Sunday and work my way down the region, all right, where maybe they have an off day on a Monday and Tuesday, but they're back to work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
Right? So we look for those anchor dates first, and then we start filling in the gaps with secondary markets, right? So your New York City is going to be a major market, whereas your Boise, Idaho is going to be a secondary market, right?
Yeah.
So those are the harshes where you have to get on the phone and you have to call promoters all around the world, because this isn't just a United States thing.
And we're talking about like promoters that are some of them are just starting, or some of them that have been doing business.
No, we're talking about, in my database, I have over 40,000 buyers worldwide.
Okay.
Okay. So these buyers are from casinos to colleges to fairs, festivals, theme parks, amusement parks, military bases, nightclubs. Okay. And so
from the bottom to the top, basically.
Right.
Okay.
We're calling them and we're emailing them. Of course, a little nightclub or a little bar that holds 200 people can't afford this tour.
No.
Because you're talking about a tour with a group of people that have sold over 50 million records collectively.
Yeah.
Right? So one artist is coming from Sweden. Another artist is coming from Germany. Another artist is coming from Florida. Another one's coming from Texas. Another one's coming from New Jersey. Another one's coming from Las Vegas. So the promoter who books the package is also paying for flights, hotels, ground transportation, meals, the venue, the marketing and the promotion, right? So yeah, we have a list of people that we know to go to because they fall into that genre. I'm not gonna call a promoter that does jazz to do this dance package. And I'm not gonna call a promoter that does Latin to do this package, although it does kind of
almost.
Yeah. But it's not the same thing. If the people that go to that guy's venue are used to listening to bachata, merengue, salsa, it's gonna throw them off bringing in
because they're so used to a certain amount of a certain thing that they bring, and it's like I've seen some promoters mess up like that. They'll bring a whole reggaeton group, and the next thing you know, they're going hardcore hip hop, and the crowds are very different. It's just Yeah, I seen
Now,
that. I seen that.
now, if they have a clientele for that, then they'll get on it. I have a promoter in Canada who's a real nice guy, and he just booked Elvis Crespo with me and a freestyle act.
Nice.
So he had on Friday, he had a bunch of freestyle artists as well as reggaeton artists and Elvis Crespo, and the
Wow.
place was packed.
It had to be. It had to
On
be.
Saturday,
You don't
on
know
the
what to
Saturday-
do. Like,
yeah, on Saturday he had a hip hop show. So he had
Nice.
Shante, he had Ja Rule, and blah blah blah. And on the Sunday he had a dance package, similar to the one that I had. So that promoter, has a nice list of people that he's worked with in the past that he does an e-blast and he does flyers that he mails out to them. And so he already has the clientele. So he can do a variety of different artists.
that's freaking lovely. Big shout out to different aspects of this game. I hope a lot of people are learning, especially if they want to be involved in any part of that part of industry, because I really feel like all of that is hard. Because I know it's been hard. I know there's like artists that have bad days and then you gotta like do cancellations, or even artists that are not even motivated to do things, and then you gotta do things like that. And I know there was this thing that I read where you said there's been doors closed in our face. Like and I know that's just a saying, but what are some situations that, not everything went well?
Well, I'm going to give you an example of when I started producing records. So, like I said, I'm mailing out cassettes, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you had a label call you or send you a letter that says, thank you, Ruben Martinez, for sending us your demo. Unfortunately, it's not the right time right now for us. Catch us on the next one, right?
Okay.
So that's a door that's closed. You want to know what I did? When I found a deal, I would go back, and on the bottom of the vinyl, it would say, written by, published by, produced by, mixed by, and then on the bottom, in small fine print, it would say special thanks. So on the special thanks, I would thank mom, dad, sister, whatever, and then thank you to label blah, 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 blah. And then I will mail them the record, or I will give them to them because they passed on me. And now that opened their eyes.
Smart ass, I swear to God.
They open their eyes so that the next time I send them a record, they will pay attention.
Yeah.
I remember walking into a club, and I'm going to mention his name because he's my boy. Guy named Carlos Barrios.
Okay.
I sent him a record that I produced called Sound of Two, Samba. And Carlos passed on it. And then he signed another group that I had called Skin Deep. And we booked a show at a club in New Jersey. It's not called Club Pure, but it was called Club Abyss.
Okay, I remember. I remember.
And I walk into the club with the group, okay? The DJ doesn't know who I am, okay? He doesn't know I'm coming. He plays my record. And I look at Carlos and I start laughing. You see? You passed on it. You passed on it. And all he could do was, damn, you were right. But you want to know what he did? He signed another record right away.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So, again, those are the doors that close, and you just have to make sure that you have your hand on it so it doesn't fully close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it does close, you got to keep knocking and knocking and knocking and make sure they pay attention. Sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes there's not chemistry there. You know? It's like if I'm working with an artist and the artist is giving me a hard time. Although I got a contract with that person, maybe it wasn't meant to be, and I got to let them go.
Yeah.
And I got to let them go to Tom, Dick, Harry, Bob, and see if the grass is green on the other side. And maybe it is, but a lot of the times it's not. And they come back crying, hey, so and so stole from me. So and so did this to me. So yeah, that's what you decided to do.
Yeah, because you didn't take me fucking serious, Ari.
Yeah,
Because you didn't take me serious. Like, I'm
yeah,
that dude right now. Like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
I got a question, right? But
yeah,
and it just comes from me when it comes to licensing. A lot of these unsigned artists, right? They're afraid of losing masters, right? They're afraid of not being, you know, responsible for where their catalog goes. They're you know, all these things come up. Like everybody's always like trying to keep it 100. You know, it's just like
yeah,
they don't understand his business. Licensing, registering, all that. Like a brief thing. Like if I give you a single and I'm like, look, this is it right here, you know, and I go to one of the pros and I'm like, artist, writer, composer, I register everything, boom, boom, boom. Like what's next for a song if I want it to captivate, if I want it to go everywhere? Because people are getting these judgment about, you know, social media, let it be a hit, go on TikTok, go crazy. But I still feel like artists they're not gonna pass that if they don't let the song go. Like they don't let somebody else handle it. You know, I don't know how that thing
yeah.
works.
Okay, so if you have the finances to go and spend $500,000 to $1 million on your promotion and your marketing, keep it. Stay with your product because you have the money.
$500,000. Okay.
Because now it's yours. Now you get to dictate when you want the record to come out, how you want it to come out, what the look is going to be, you know, et cetera, et cetera. That's yours. You own it. It's your master, right? If you have those finances. Now, if you don't have those finances, you have to find a label that does, right? And a lot of the times, the artist gets confused with, like, oh, how much money am I going to get for an event? When they should be thinking of how much money is the label going to spend on my marketing and promotion, okay? Because, again, it goes right back to the label has to recoup the money they put out on you. So if they're spending X amount of money on radio, X amount of money on a publicist, if you decide you want a record release party and they're going to pay for it, they're going to charge you for all that. So if you have the finances, keep it. If you don't have the finances, then you have to give that master to a record company
You
where
have
they're
to
going
let
to
it go.
own it.
You have to let it
They're
go.
going to own it.
I'm trying to. I give them that analogy, like you have to let it go. If your song is popping,
Yeah.
and you could only go so far with it because it's only going to go so far. So many people are not going to do it for free, you know. And I always tell them, like, you need to give it up. It needs to
Yeah.
go places that you can't reach, and you know, just make sure your paperwork is right. You
Yeah.
know, and yeah, let somebody in Pepsi hold it down and use like 20 seconds of that song. It's still going to be somewhere. It's still going to be populated. It's still going to bring you some relevance, but you might not see the money from Pepsi, or you might get a flat rate from Pepsi. You know, it's just, you, am I crazy for saying that? Like you're already going to get what you're going to get for the song, and the song is going to keep your name alive.
Right.
But you might not see everything that song is giving you back.
Yeah.
You got to use that whatever leverage that song is giving you to do tours, to get money from tours, get money from merchandise, you know what I mean? Like, am I crazy for saying that?
You're not crazy at all.
Okay.
And like I said, if you have the finances, if you have the proper people working your product, then you're okay. You know, keep grinding, keep that money, because you're getting 100% back. Versus if you sign with a label today, a lot of the labels are doing 360 deals. What is a 360 deal? A 360 deal is where they taking a percentage of every possible income that you could bring in. Touring, merchandising, songwriting, publishing, etc., etc. I personally know reggaeton artists
I know some too.
where their label are taking 55%, 60% of their income. And that is because that artist signed that deal. Now, that label didn't put a gun to their head and said, you have to sign with it.
Nah, it's usually because they get happy. They get freaking, it's either
It's
this or
because
nothing.
they got to sign with the label that has, Bobby, Tommy, Skippy that are doing very well. They're being played on radio. And yes, the label is spending money to get them on radio and get them to be recognizable names. And so that's the 360 deal where in the earlier days, artists would sign and get 4%, 6%, 10%. If you were a Janet Jackson back then or a Michael Jackson, whatever, you were probably getting 25, 30%, right? But you had to grow to that. It wasn't that the Jacksons signed and automatically they had, 20, 30% of their record sales. They started out low. You know what I mean? And then because they sold records, they were able to elevate themselves and then ask for more because they were giving those labels big returns.
Big shout out to everybody listening in. Ruben has been he's just going in right now. I do want to reiterate people that understand that Ruben has admitted that in the beginning he didn't pay attention. He didn't do certain things. Some of those were trademarking your name because what his first group was is not who the Real to Real is. And because he didn't trademark it, he couldn't run with it. And that kind of messed everything up.
But now he represents Real to Real.
That's funny.
He represents the other group. You understand?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the end of the story where the original group that I had was called Real to Real. But eventually, as time went on, I became the co-manager, booking agent for Mark Quashie, Real to Real featuring the Mad Stomach.
Yo, man.
And I told Mark, crazy. I had the name before you.
Yeah. Definitely would.
All you can do is laugh while you didn't trademark it. Shame on you.
Another thing that he pointed out was, when the artists get a little too crazy or where they invest their money in. And the example that he used was trying to get into a magazine for a page that possibly your fans don't even read. You pay like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get on a certain issue, and to find out that it was basically a waste of money, and it's a pat on the back for yourself. Yeah, I see a lot of artists do the same thing. They go onto their gram, they're pulling out the page that they're in, and then go buy that now. Like it should have been off the shelf if you're on there, right? Like it should have been off the shelf. And
usually the label's the one that's paying for the ad, right? And so if you're an up-and-coming artist and you buy Billboard as an example, right? And you buy Billboard and you're flicking the pages and you see Bruno Mars, you see The Weeknd, you see Cardi B, Justin Bieber, blah, blah, blah. And now you say, oh, I want to be in the same magazine they're in. So now you go and you pay for an ad towards the back of the magazine. And it's a little square that says artist John Doe, new single, blah, 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 with the picture on it, and maybe the website. But it's going to say on the top, advertisement.
Oh, yes.
It's going to say on the top, advertisement. Whereas if that person said, okay, let me think about the things that I'm supposed to do first. I wrote a song. First thing I have to do is copyright it. I'm not copywriting by mailing it to myself. I'm copywriting because I went to the Library of Congress and I paid the $35 to register the record.
$35, people. $35.
With the Library of Congress, right? So I set up my publishing company. I set up my writing company through ASCAP, BMI, CSAT. If you live in the United States, if you live in Germany, it's Gamma. All right. There's different publishing societies all over the world. All right. So now I set that up. So now, what else am I supposed to do? Well, people need to know what I look like, so I gotta go get a photo shoot, right? And I gotta pay for the record that I just wrote. So I gotta find a producer. If you're not mechanically inclined, where you cannot produce your own record, now you gotta go find somebody that you can afford, that has a name, that when you shop your record, people are gonna recognize, oh, look, this was produced by so-and-so, right? So those are the steps that up-and-coming artist has to take. And a lot of them don't want to pay their dues. They want to skip the line. And they want to just go out there and just throw out stuff. And all they're doing is crowding the internet. Although the internet is huge, right?
Yeah.
They're still crowding the space. Because for the most part, if they didn't do things correctly and the record doesn't sound right or the image doesn't look right, all they're doing is just crowding the space and wasting people's time.
Another, big shout to Ruben Martinez, again, CEO of Nenemuisk. He's given us some jewels and some confirmation, because for real, I'll be yelling at these kids. And I call them kids because they don't want to listen. And it's crazy because when, I'm just a guy that decided that I was going to become like a music journalist. So I decided that I was going to run around and roll around in the Bronx, roll around with my friends, and figure out how did these artists get from here to there and continue having a regular life. We talked about earlier that some of your favorite artists or established artists maintain another job because they don't make the same amount of money that you believe they do. They might be legendary to you. They might have 4 or 5 singles on the top 40, but they still are not making the same amount of money as you believe. So please maintain some kind of other income as you are an artist. We talked about payola, but we didn't get too much in it. People have this they're creating their own definition of payola. All right.
Yeah.
And I know the definition online. It says, to take money, put it here for your own interest. Basically the brief is, right?
Yeah.
In reality, the payola is a record label taking other people's slots for this amount of money, right? But people like radio stations, they take money from everywhere anyway. They take ads, they take charity, they take donations, they take crowdfunding, so when people are asking the radio stations like Small As Me, and they're saying, hey, I'm not paying to get my song played on the show. And I'm like, well, how the hell do you expect me to support you? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but labels and artists pay for slots on the radio. Sometimes it's not an enormous amount of money, but when it becomes an enormous amount of money, it is payola. Because you're going bigger than the best, a bit bitter. I don't know. You can have a hit record, and that station has to be familiar with it. That program manager has to be familiar with it. Like, look, this is a hit record. We're gonna play it. I don't know. Like, I want to talk about this payola because I get cursed out sometimes in my messages, and I'm like, bro, I'm just asking you to pay the bills, just like every other radio station is asking you to just pay the bills. I will definitely say your name. I will definitely get an interview with you. I will definitely do a whole bunch of stuff, but you're talking about payola, but who are you? Like, let me know what payola is. And if small radio stations like me, I know that we're not wrong. Payola is not like $4 or $5. Payola is like a lot of bread.
No, it's a lot of bread, and you have to multiply that bread by I'll give you an example. If you have a conglomerate that owns 500 stations, right? You have another conglomerate that owns 800 stations, right? They're making their money from Home Depot and McDonald's and Burger King and Ford. You know, those are the advertisers that they have. And then they have smaller advertisers, your mom and pop store that's, advertising a product that they have, right? But then you have the recording artists and you have the labels. They want the material played. And so if that radio station is already getting money from a Sony, from Def Jam, et cetera, and now you want to come in, it's like, well, wait a minute, these guys are already taking care of us. And it might not be that you're giving them money per se, but maybe you pay for their t-shirts. Maybe you pay to wrap their van, right? Maybe you pay for merchandise that they need to throw out when they do an event. You know what I mean? It could be a lot of ways, but for the most part, they get that support, right? And so it's a matter of, okay, I'm an up and coming artist. We go right back to that.
Yeah.
You want to get in. So that radio station is not going to let you in and give you full rotation right away. They're going to put you on what's called overnights.
I keep
So
telling them.
They're going to play a record from 12 a.m. to 6 o'clock in the morning.
When nobody's up.
6 o'clock in the morning, the morning show starts. So the morning show goes from 6 to 10. Probably after the morning show, they'll play your record again. Then they got the midday show. So maybe they'll play your record on a mixed show where the DJ's mixing your record in with something else. And maybe you're lucky, they might play your record at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock. But then you're right back to overnights again. So if you prove to that radio station and you prove to your fans that you're committed to your craft and that you're not just going to pay this once, you're going to continue paying it because you want to maintain that spot that you got, then eventually they'll let you loose a little bit. Because what that radio station is going to say now is like, hey, we want you to perform at our annual show. Okay? So you're in Virginia right now, right, Dave?
Yeah.
So whatever radio station is in your area, right?
Yeah.
They used to do a yearly show in your area where they will go get a nightclub and they will bring in 5 acts and you'll see the 5 acts perform, you know what I mean? Whether it was a summer show or it was a Christmas show, right?
Yeah.
But now what happens to that little local station? That little local station gets bought out by one of the conglomerates, right?
Yep.
And now what they say is like, go to our yearly show in Las Vegas, where we're going to fly in 120 acts, and now you got to go and book flight, hotel, ground transportation to go see this major show at an arena in one place where you were comfortable.
Listen.
Just going to that little club.
Listen. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this right now. These are not the words of Ruben Martinez, and I'm saying this right now because I'm sure that he's also a radio pusher. But the thing is like, if you guys have not experienced that, then you got to understand. Everybody used to go to that one event. You know what he's talking about. That one event that you was like, I can't wait till they come back in town and all this other stuff. And the next thing you know, that local radio station has this saying every 15 minutes where it's a certain radio station, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give some examples, and it might hurt my future, but I don't care right now because they got to know that I got to know. So on iHeartRadio or in Odyssey, they start buying off these small local radio stations. The same people that used to give away book bags and stuff like that, a whole bunch of stuff that you guys used to do. And they can't bring anybody else because corporate, the ones that own them, they can't bring. They're going to, the same people that we used to come every year, Now you got to go to so-and-so. And if you don't understand that part, it's only been 3 to 4 years that iHeartRadio brought everybody to Las Vegas when it never really used to happen. It only happened for the last 3 to 4 years. It wasn't something that always happened. That same event that those stations used to have in their local areas are now taken by a corporate, what's the word you used when they conglomerate. They own a lot of stations. And guess when he's talking about payola, he's talking about, okay, you got your local McDonald's, you got your local t-shirt company, you got your local whatever paying for this radio station, and then they get bought out by the conglomerate, and then that conglomerate has access to 800 something whatever stations. That local McDonald's is still paying that radio station for some reason, right? But as a label, they're able to pay that one corporate guy to access 800 radio stations, where you as an unsigned artist are just trying to get paid at the local, just trying to get heard at the local spot. You know,
So again, when I was doing the math, and again, I want to correct something because I work with iHeartRadio, I work with Odyssey, I work with all of those guys, and I believe in radio.
I do too. I do too.
I prefer radio than the streaming, because if I do the math, if a radio station plays my record, I'm getting 9.8 cents every time they play my record. That's the statutory rate. Whereas if my record plays on Spotify, I'm getting 1/32 of a penny. 1/32.
That's 30 zeros.
Right. So if I want my record to go gold on Spotify, I have to have like 50 million listens for it to go gold on Spotify. Whereas if my record sells, 500,000 units because people heard it on the radio station, right? Now, as an artist or a manager, I'm getting more return on my investment, right? And so again, for that up and coming artist, if he or she feels that they have the finances to go and invest themselves, then I tell them, go for radio, because you're gonna make much more. And then think about it like this: I get a call from up and coming artists. Hey, Ruben, can you book me? No. Why? Because when I call Dave, who owns Dave's nightclub in Virginia, and I start talking to Dave about John Doe, he's going to ask me, are they playing on my radio station, on my local radio station? And I say, oh, wait, let me see. I got to go now and look at the chart and see if they're playing. And if they're not, Dave's not going to take a chance on it. They're going to take a chance on the ones that are being played on his radio station, because the people that live in that area already know those artists. And so he's going to get a better return on investment booking one of those top 5, one of those top 10 artists that are being played on his local radio station.
True story. True story. True story. Oh my God, Ruben, thank you so much, man. Decades of Dance tour. Watch it out for somewhere in your neighborhood. The casinos. I've been to my first casino last month. I was like, wow, it really gets litty in here. The DC, the MGM. I was like, okay, that's kind of a pretty place. Also, CEO of Nenemuisk. That's the homie right there. If you guys are not paying attention, it's been so we're working on like what, 30-something years right now. 30-something years.
I knocked on wood before. I'm gonna knock on wood again. I started doing this when I was in junior high school, 1986. I still have a book that I could show you right now that has my first logo.
Yo, let me see that logo, though. Let me see that logo. Well, that's a big logo right there. In comic book ages.
Exactly. This is one of the first ones, and then it became this.
Okay.
And then it became this.
And you still with that?
And I still with that. But I mean, it went through different stages. And so that's why, when I talk about the whole branding, look, I'll even show you business cards from back in the 80s.
Oh my gosh.
Okay?
I should make a thing like that. I got 3 different kinds of
Yeah,
business
this is like
That's
a little
nice.
like
Memory
little
lane.
book. I mean, there's pictures of here. This is me singing, and this is for the people that can't see it, but there's a picture of me singing at a club.
Okay.
A little hobby book where I need to scan. I got flyers of shows that I promoted. You know, but yeah, knock on wood, over 30 plus years that I've been doing this.
Man, Ruben Martinez. Oh my God. This is, like I said in the beginning, man, it's super pleasure. You've been having like hands-on with a lot of things. A lot of people that I looked up to. You probably looked up to them too and wondering, how the hell did I get into that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How am I managing their life?
Right.
Which is really crazy. I know that when you called me, right? It was funny because I was like, I think I'm about to get yelled at, right? But it wasn't nothing. It was just a clarification. One of the questions that I asked, because I know some artists are probably going to ask, and we just got to get it out there, is if an artist did approach you, what are some of their first questions that you would ask them?
Well, I'm going to ask them where they are now. Okay, so again, it's an up and coming artist. Okay, they may have a beautiful voice. They might have skills on the microphones where they're great lyricists, right? But the important thing is, are they investing in themselves? Are they investing in their business? Because they want to be in this, and so they cannot cheat. They cannot try to skip the line. I want to make sure, and I'm going to look at everything, okay? If you send me a video link, I'm going to look at that video from beginning to end, and I'm going to write notes, and I'm going to circle back with you, and I'm going to show you what I think could have been done better, right? Now it's up to that artist to not have an ego and say, hey, I'm going to take it down right now, and I'm going to heed your advice, and I'm going to try to do it your way, And so those are the things, like I said, this is a business. You have to treat it as a business. It's called the music business, not the music friendship. Okay? And so I may be somebody's boy, you know what I mean? Somebody's homie, but at the end of the day, like I told you, every month you get those gimmicks that come in the mail. It's the gimmick for the light. It's the gimmick for the car payment. It's the gimmick for the mortgage. It's the gimmick for whatever you consume. It has to be paid. And so if I'm paying those bills and I'm paying for other things to keep my company afloat and to compete with other companies, then I expect that artist to be doing the same thing within their means.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't expect artists, John Doe that's up and coming, to compete with Jay-Z from the bat. No. He's got to start small and grow and continue growing until he or she eventually gets signed by Jay-Z or is on Jay-Z's level and is performing on the same stage with Jay-Z.
Big shout out to everybody listening. Ruben Martinez, CEO of Nenemuisk and Nenemuisk Network. Make sure you guys follow that podcast. Shout out to Augustus Cho. We're definitely going to try to talk to him too. Sal Michaels at Pyramid, Alex at Artists and Audience. They gave him their wisdom and allowed him the opportunity to be part of their legacy and open up their rosters. I'm going to say this roster again so people understand. LaBouche, Gladys Knight, Guns N' Roses, Cool and the Gang, Metallica, Marilyn Manson, 9 Inch Nails, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Usher, Paul McCartney, so many other artists. We did have some questions here, but I feel like as a guy that has been dealing with so many artists, you can't really answer this. But who is your favorite artist?
I don't have one. I don't have one.
It's Ruben Martinez. Like, yo.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody, I have different relationships with different artists. There's some that are just on the business level, where we're not going to sit down and have a pizza together. It's just about, hey, it's a work environment. And then there's other ones that come to my house and we barbecue, or I go to their house and I barbecue, where I know their kids, they know my kids. There's a Christmas present going their way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
There's different relationships, right? And so I can't really tell you that I have a favorite, because there's different relationships. So for the most part, the ones that I'm working with, I love them all, I support them all, and I expect the same thing back.
Big shout out to that. Ruben Martinez, thank you so much. I'm probably going to bother you a lot.
You can bother me whenever you want, Dave.
Yo, don't tell me that, bro. Don't tell me that. Let me stop.
Within business hours, you can call me whenever you want within business hours. I got that wife I got to take care of, but
you know the deal. You know the vibes, man. It was such a pleasure to have you. It's such an insight. And not only that, the tour, Decades of Dance Tour, 90s edition. You guys got to look out for that around. Did you ever think about like a memoir or a book or something like that?
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to work on. I did write a book, but that book is on shopping. It's called How to Buy in Today's Digital World.
Okay.
Tips for those who want to save a buck. I think I have a copy right here. I can show your people. Okay. So this book teaches people how to shop, whether they're going to do grocery shopping, they're going to buy flights, hotel, whatever it is. I talk about finances, how to set up an IRA, okay, for your retirement, et cetera, et cetera. So this was the first book. I have another book that I'm finishing called Interviews with Freestyle Legends, where I interview different freestyle artists and bass artists, producers.
Definitely gotta see that. I got it.
Yeah. So then eventually I will work into the memoir of all the craziness.
You got to do that, man.
Life,
you got to do that. I can only imagine the support behind that.
Yeah.
That's going to be amazing. That's going to be amazing. Yeah. And I'm going to call you like, yo, bro, let's talk about it.
There's a lot of war stories, man. I've been surrounded by 8 cops that wanted to beat me up. You know what I mean? By a mayor. I mean, I got a lot of crazy stories. Promoters that didn't want to pay money, and they wanted to fight even though they're in the wrong. There's a lot of crazy stories
it's not all cupcakes and rainbows, people. It's not. It's so hard. Ruben, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you to your fans, to your public, and I hope to do this again with you soon.
Yeah, no doubt, bro. We're gonna do this, all right? And if I don't talk to you, happy holidays, but I'm going to hit you up and say happy holidays anyway.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Big shout out to my boy, man. Okay, just to reiterate, and I'm going to tell you something right now. The reason I'm kind of like, is this guy is responsible for taking care of artists. See, it's a core value that we have here at QSJ Radio. But I can't, and I'm gonna take some of this. I'm gonna make it into my own words. I cannot take you serious if you don't take yourself serious. I cannot invest my time in you if you're not investing your time in yourself. And let me tell you something, man. Nenemuisk and artist management consultant firm that provides services to recording artists, production companies, celebrities, record labels, sports entertainment. They provide consulting and overall campaign management for startup ventures, product releases, ongoing oversight of day-to-day operations. This can be also inclusive to artist development, record production, songwriting, artist management, label structure, independent marketing and promotional services, radio promotion, street promotion, video production, publicity, digital distribution, etc. They develop marketing plans, release schedules, set up strategies, including pre-set up work to influence trade publications, radio stations, media outlet, social media campaigns, fan club databases. Listen, we covered 40% of that. 30 to 40% of that. Okay? Let me give you the names. Again, he started from the 80s. He's still rocking with top artists to this day. Brandy, Diana Ross, MC Light, Two in the Room, La Bouche, Gladys Knight, Guns N' Roses, Kool and the Gang, Metallica, 9 Inch Nails. Listen, Usher, Paul McCartney. You don't believe it? This is what I want you to do. There's a link that's dropping right now on the Twitch, which some of y'all not even on the Twitch side. It's all good. But you need to go to his website. You need to go Google this dude and see everybody he's working with right now. That it's whatever. See, the whole thing that I'm doing here at QSJ Radio is something that he's doing for real in real life. You ever see me pull out a paper on somebody? You know what was crazy? He even put his wife, his ex-wife, on the top 40 chart. His ex-wife. They were going in. And then when that broke out, 90% of everybody ran with him to his new spot at Nenemuisk. It's a relationship now. My boy Ruben. I just found out we got 10 mutual friends. You think I ain't gonna add him on Facebook right now? You think I'm not gonna ask for the LinkedIn? You think that I'm gonna try? He said things right now that are really identifiable in the music and current, all that. Shout out to Elvis Crespo. He put Elvis Crespo on General Mills Cheerios box. He made an investment with getting Elvis Crespo on Cheerios ads. Who thinks about that? Did anybody, any artists in the building ever think like I should get my own juice box? Right? This is an amazing guy, amazing story. This part of this is not probably going to be in a podcast, it's whatever, but I really got to give it up to the late Bobby Davis. Bobby Davis put this dude in the studio out of the kindness of his heart. That's all it took. And I know half of these things that this guy is doing is the kindness of his heart. And then he had to make it into something where it wasn't going to take away from his family. And that's what people got to do. I appreciate the phone call. I appreciate his conversation. He knows he was only going to be here for an hour. Y'all know how I be, though. It don't be an hour with traffic, though.
They should never gave this dude a mic. Here we go! He's killing it. Watch out. He's so in love and he's mad about it. Mad love. That's why we say, come on, man, you already know. Mad love.
I do want to give a shout out to everybody who stood in the building. Nix, thank you so much for falling asleep and coming back. Lori for staying in the building with me. Thank you so much. Thin Strips, Niner, what up? West Side, how you guys doing? Thank you so much. Brana for coming in and lurking. Annika for the 13-month resub. Vinyl in the building, even though you're a little hurt. Hope you feel better. Nix, same thing. Hope you feel a little bit better. Ileana coming in the building. She's sounding like she's in the industry. I think Illy got a freaking album out. Yo, Illy, let me know. You know what I'm saying? Let me know. But and shout out to Hanging Urbanic. They came out in the building. Lori, thank you so much for the 7-month resub. Thank you so much for tuning in. That is the loyal raider and one of my mods. Thank you so much, man. You've been there in and out and sometimes behind the scenes as an excessive friend, which is really, really good. It's really good. Don't change who you are. All right. Thank you so much for all those things and all those yells. Hanging Urbanic came in here with his questions. Please take those answers very, very serious, because you're an artist. You are a reviewer of music, and you got to take the information how it is. DJ Mike 40, you already know the vibes, my boy. He's in the building. Mike 40, you ready for this show? Abby Boo coming in the beginning, and anybody and everybody who's still in here, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bossy V coming in late. I see you. Prince, thank you so much for coming in mad late. You know the vibes. I saw John Weiss over there on Facebook. Thank you so much. And Chavo, you owe me $20. You tell me you owe me $20. Thank you guys so much. Incredible. This will be available on QSJRadio.com and anywhere your podcasts are. Please. This Thursday we will have the Light Warriors. They'll be coming in here. A band from New York City. Yes, they're so excited to come out here and talk to us about their story. So make sure you guys are tuning in for that. Ruben Martinez, again, go ahead and find them at nenemuisk.com. And go ahead, if you listen to podcasts, Augustus Chow is a famous actor doing podcasts with all of his celebrity friends and more. Go ahead and go download that. All the links are available somewhere in the chat. Thank you guys so much. You already know the vibes. QSJRadio.com.
They should never gave this dude a mic. Here we go. He's killing it. Watch out. He's so in love and he's mad about it. Mad love. That's why we say, come on, man. You already know. Mad love.
Y'all know where we going, right? Let's go, Rachel Peng. Stop playing. Let's go, Rachel Peng. I'm not playing. Is somebody else on? The Night Owls. Shout out to the Night Owls. I love those guys. Digital Cosmic is on. Let's go, Rachel Peng.